Okay, Kimberly, in appreciation for your 15 years of employment with the County of Lassen, we, the Lassen County Board of Supervisors, would like to take this opportunity to present you with a certificate of recognition and thank you for your time, efforts, and commitment. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been fun. It's the best job I've ever had in my life.
Wait. I've worked with Kim since I started with the county, and I can't think of someone who brings a better spirit to our workplace. You work with some of the messiest situations, some of the most difficult people, and I know that sometimes that wears on you, but you're always there, positive, come back, it's starting a new day. And one of the things that I most appreciate about Kim is the growth that she's had. And social workers tend to love the hardest people and kind of say, well, let's love the person and screw the system. Just do what we can to help them. And we have a program called Family Solutions, which is a wraparound program for children that are out of the home because of probation or child welfare from CPS. That provide services to them in the community, preferably in the home of their family. And this keeps them out of group homes, keeps them out of foster homes, is able to keep them safe, connected to the community and their school, and to build skills for their parents and their families. And I think this is really telling of Kim's growth in the county, was a recognition that the program became more important to her than the individual people, that keeping that program going and following the rules of that program, that because it works, because it benefits the children, and so, you know, I'm so proud of you for that insight, and that was an eye-opener for me too, because sometimes we do get frustrated with the rules that we operate under on government, but a recognition that if we do follow the program and follow the rules, when there are good programs, that we can benefit many people. So I'm so proud of you, Kim, and hope that you continue to stay working for years to come.
Let's take apart C1 and I had a question. So for all these items C1, 2, and 3, before we begin each one, can we just adjourn and reconvene and take up all three, or do we have to go in and out every time?
They're individual districts.
And then on the first one, it doesn't list to adjourn as board and reconvene as Beaver. Should we not do that for C1 as well?
No, on the first one, no. They've adopted their budget. Is that correct, Julie? The district has.
Informally, yes.
Okay.
The Lassen Motor Flood Control, yes.
The district has adopted theirs. So what you're doing is just conducting a hearing.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thanks.
On their behalf. Do I understand that right, Julie?
The county board, this board of supervisors is the board, so they need to formally approve the budget and the resolution
Okay, so then
after
you won't
holding
need
public
And to
hearings.
do so, you have to adjourn as this
So we
board
have
and
to do
reconvene
that.
as that board.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I thought that might be the case. So okay.
So all three.
Okay. So okay, so the first matter of business then is we'll adjourn as Board of Supervisors and we'll convene as the Lassen Modoc Flood Control District.
And open.
And with that, yeah, I said we'll open the public hearing at 10:20. Okay. So I'll leave it to you to give an intro then.
Julie?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good. Members of the Board of Supervisors. This Lassen MoDOC Flood Control District budget has been posted in the paper for the required amount of time. The Lassen MoDOC Flood Control Advisory Board did approve their budget informally. This board is the 5 members of the Lassen County Board of Supervisors and 4 of the MoDOC County Supervisors. They were notified well in advance of this meeting, I think a month ago, and I did send them a complete packet a couple weeks ago through their clerk and admin department. So I've been in communication with them, so what's being requested today is approve the resolution and the budget and adopt the resolution. Is there any questions? I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Is there any questions? Yeah.
Now, what part does MoDOC take in this? Because I know when we were, I mean, how does this, because we got 2 counties working together in the same jurisdiction district. I mean, how does, what role does MoDOC play in this?
It's a joint board. The complete board is 9 members, 4 from their county, 5 from ours. There is an advisory board for both of those boards, my understanding, and they provide groundwatering monitoring for the area between the 2 counties.
Right. What does MoDOC County play in the budget? Or do
They would sit as, there's only 5 of the 9 members here today. They're a member of the district, just like you are.
Right.
None of them are here today, even though we've invited them. So the 5 of you constitute a quorum of that 9-member board,
Okay.
but they're a member of the board just like you are.
Okay, is there any other questions of board members?
I think this is a comment, Mr. Chairman, for Mr. Alma's benefit. You know, back in the 50s when this board was formed, it was formed for the purposes of lobbying for the construction of the Allen Camp Dam. It was actually approved by Congress, even though Congress back in like 1957 or 58, Congress has never appropriated the money to build it. And so as part of that project, the flood control, that's where basically it's along the Pitt River, so the southwest portion of MoDOC County and the northwest portion of Lassen County is the primary beneficiary of this particular program. And the board was created by law at the time, established the 4 MoDOC supervisors west of the mountains, so Cedarville is not in Cedarville yet. So that's basically for the purpose of building that dam. So it's been 60, 70 years, it's never happened. You're about like the 4th supervisor to sit on there, representing that area.
I remember what it was now, because I remember you had an issue with it once, and I remember then sort of when before it was here,
Yeah.
it was gone, so we had to wait until we had full quorum.
Julie addressed my question, where the MoDOC folks invited, that you have to have a minimum of 5 people to sit on the board to take care of the annual business. And what the 30,000 is, and I assume that's what the advisory committee said, are the fees that the landowners that pay into support the groundwater monitoring and what limited flood control measures. And so this is like their money being reappropriated back out to take care of the work for them. So we're just administratively kind of taking care of business for them.
And of course, because it's a 9-member board, 5 members present today would constitute a quorum, but in order for the measure, or for it to be adopted, you have to have a majority vote of all 5.
Thank you, thanks for that, yeah. Is there, before you go, Julie, I'll ask, is there any questions of the audience on Julie's report? No? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to conduct this properly, I'm gonna ask now, is there anybody from the audience that wants to speak in opposition of passing this? No? Anybody speaking in favor of it? Okay, so we'll bring it back for action.
I would move approval of
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, very good, thank you. I'm slow, sorry. It's July and I'm still making mistakes.
We'll keep working with you.
Thank you. we'll start off. So Madam Clerk, would you poll the vote?
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyle?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond? Supervisor Lassen?
Aye. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to, we're going to
Adjourn
adjourn
as that
as
board.
the
Flood.
Beaver Lassen MoDOT flood control, and we're going to reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
And now adjourn as the board of supervisors and convene as the Beaver Line
There's
District.
a lot of switching of
Yes,
hats.
there is. Yes, there is, sir.
Okay, and so with that, we'll adjourn as the MoDOT flood control, and we'll reconvene as the Board of Supervisors, and we'll take up item C2.
C3.
Three.
Oh, sorry, C3. Geez, somebody fired me. Okay, sorry. C3, Beaver Lighting District.
Public.
Yeah, I'm just, looking here, and, this one didn't list, public hearing, so.
That's what C1 was for both of them.
Yeah,
Kind of was a title more than an action.
okay, so this is also, should,
Yes.
okay, so we'll open the public hearing at 10:27. Okay, hi, thank you.
Hello again.
Hello again.
The Beaver Lighting District is a district under the control of the Board of Supervisors. The action being requested today is to adopt the resolution establishing the appropriations limit for the district and approve the Beaver Lighting District's budget in the amount of $9,000. And the action being requested is to adopt the resolution. And attached to the resolution is a full copy of the budget. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the Board or the public may have.
Okay, so any questions of board members?
How do they get them, the 9,000, is that?
I believe it's a special district tax from the people in that area.
It's a, if I'm not mistaken, it's a share of the
Property tax.
property tax, the $1 rate.
And then the other question I had, do you have $2 on the interest and warrants? Interest on notes and warrants.
That is from the actuals from 12/13, so that $2 was part of the actual expenditures for 2012-13. The proposed budget is the $9,000 for the utilities.
What do they have the interest on for notes and warrants? I mean, they don't,
I
$2.
I would have to refer to the auditor's office on what that was. I don't know what that $2 was. I did see that on there as an actual number. The $9,000 is for utilities, for the lights.
Okay, so we have any questions of board members? Any questions from the audience? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this? Anything you'd like to speak in favor of? Okay, we will bring it back for action. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
I need approval of C3, the Beaver Lighting District proposed budget.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you pull the vote?
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyle? Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Lassen?
Aye. Okay, so with that, we'll adjourn as the Beaver Lighting District and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
Sorry, Aaron, for butchering you. Okay, we'll move, well, we normally have a 10:25 recess. Would you either take up 10:30 time certain and then recess, or is that okay with everyone? Okay. So we'll take up item C4, 10:30 public hearing Planning and Building Services.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Warren Anderson, Planning and Building Services. You have before you today the subject matter is an ordinance to amend Lassen County Code.
You want to open the public hearing?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we'll open the public hearing at 10:30 for the item
C4.
Very good. Ordinance to amend Lassen County Code Title 16 and 18, adding sections 1604-060, compliance with notes on recorded final and parcel maps, and section 18102-100, compliance with mitigation monitoring and reporting requirements. The action today is to conduct a public hearing and introduce by title only the ordinance. What's being proposed today came to our attention that through our land use attorney, that very commonly notes are placed on maps and they reflect local concerns, environmental concerns, etc. So for example, you could have on a parcel map a drawing that indicates a buffer zone along a riparian area. You could have a note that says this is okay for leach field, this isn't. All those things are eked out of the process when the maps are created, and as I said, they can be a reflection of both environmental concerns and local concerns and requirements in our subdivision and zoning. Some challenges have occurred throughout California that if there isn't something saying those matter, they are subject to challenges, and so at the advice of our land use attorney and as vetted through the Planning Commission and our council and our administration, we were proposing to put into our zoning ordinance and our subdivision ordinance statements that basically say we mean what we say. And that's reflected in the actual ordinance, compliance with notes on maps. The operative wording would be any notes affecting property are valid and operative until such time as a note is included on the most current record final or parcel map that identifies specific notes on previous final or parcel maps that are no longer valid or operative, which basically saying they mean what they say, but they can be replaced with future maps, in which case they're canceled out. And the same is true with section our zoning ordinance, Title 18, which has similar language. So that's the nuts and bolts of it. I can go into much more detail if the board wishes, but it's sort of a housekeeping thing. It's belt and suspenders. I just don't want to get in a position where the county has to defend itself in saying the notes on maps mean what they say.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
Okay, some of this verbiage is pretty ambiguous. Page 3 in 18102.100, at the bottom line, it says guidelines may contain provisions. That's disturbing to me, because who's gonna,
Is this what you're looking at?
yeah.
The actual
Page
ordinance?
3, yeah,
Page
page 3 on mine.
And can you be more specific about where in the, okay, so it would be the paragraph 18.102.100 at the very bottom, the second, just the last sentence.
Yeah.
Is that right? May contain.
This is my concern, is who's gonna, that verbiage, it's not will or shall, it's may. Who's gonna decide about these notes? I mean, do you guys put the notes on the maps, Maureen?
Well, I think, I'm sorry, I was answering the
That's
first
okay, no,
question.
no,
What was the
it's okay.
second question? But
Okay.
the Lassen County Environmental Review Guidelines may contain provisions that details regarding compliance with mitigation monitoring and reports. And again, I think our council helped us craft that. And I'm not sure what the may
That's
gives
an
us
open
room on.
interpretation, and that bothers me. Okay,
Can I help you on that, maybe?
yeah, maybe.
Well, because as each thing comes up, you know, each one's different.
Right.
And it may have some stuff on it, and it may not. You know,
Right.
depending on what the board does, what the planning commission does. They're not all gonna have something, and they're not all gonna be without something. So I think that's where that's gonna come from, if I'm reading it right.
Well, the guidelines can be changed anytime, and so I think that's probably why that's in there. You probably didn't want to burden us with a shall and leave the decision-making to this body.
Typically on a parcel map, I don't have a lot of experience with that. Wanna help me out a little bit? Is there usually notes attached to those things?
Not necessarily, it really depends, and like I said, my examples are, you could have areas that don't perk and just one specific area that does perk for a septic, so during the process, that's a known issue, and so in the environmental document that goes along with it, in order to reduce the significant impact, you identify where it can happen, and so you want to make sure into the future that people, it's A, disclosed to potential buyers, and B, that you're not going to have an effect on the environment or on that site, and so that's why it's called out as the site, and so the way you do that, the way you disclose that is to put a note on the map so that future buyers are aware of that issue and where they have to put that septic, so they don't buy a 40-acre parcel with their dream house being over there when the septic can only perk over there. And that's just an example. You could have archaeological sensitivity, you could have, there's just a variety of different things, riparian stuff, habitat stuff, that are all eked out of the environmental process, and their impacts are mitigated by doing these sorts of things and identifying areas where you can and cannot do certain land use.
Okay, and a map can't be recorded until the landowner signs the map agreeing to the condition.
And why that's called out is we don't want to infer that we're just doing this. I mean, when people go through a discretionary process and want something, and this body and the planning commission want to allow it, but it's with conditions, we want to make sure that when it gets recorded, both keys returned at the same time and everybody understands what they're doing and what they're agreeing to. And that would be the same with a map that didn't have notes on it.
So typically, when somebody comes to a lot line adjustment or something, and you're looking at the maps, and there's notes already on them from your department, and where else do they come from? The planning commission?
Well, notes can come from a variety of different agencies, and it could be also through public comment through the process. But I'm sorry, you didn't finish what your question is.
Well, I was just wondering where the notes came from. I don't know.
Usually they come through the environmental review process that goes along with the map, but not always. I mean, there could be reasons to place notes on maps that don't come out of that process and come out of the public process.
But they're ultimately imposed by the planning commission on the board, that's
Right.
the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who imposes it,
Right.
that they come out of that environmental process.
Right, so then you guys vet them, and then you put the note on the parcel map, and it comes before us.
Right, well, typically parcel maps go before the planning commission, but they sometimes end up here on appeal.
I just hate more ordinances, resolutions, just more stuff, make it harder on people to get stuff done. I'm against it. Not the tall one.
Well, this isn't adding anything really.
I understand.
It's just
It's a
basically
pre-existing
fortifying the
condition.
county's
Yeah.
position that when people agree to something, that they can't go back on it. So,
And the value is 20 years later, 30 years later, somebody, it changes ownership, and you gotta have that note on it, because everybody forgot about it. No one's left it around, but Jim Chapman.
I don't need any notes on the map.
So, I mean, it is important to have that note there, if it's up to previous owner, years later, it'd be forgotten if it wasn't on there.
Yeah, my opinion is, well, obviously I'm recommending it and I agree with our land use attorney, but it's disclosure, that's what SEEK was all about. That's what this public process is about when you create a map, and so it really just, again, fortifies the county's position that we mean what we say when we agreed with that party, what we're doing, that into perpetuity, you can't just decide it doesn't mean anything, so.
Supervisor Chapman, would like to.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could comment and weigh in on, I agree to a great extent with Mr. Hammond. I think it's a sad commentary when we don't believe in the process anymore. And that's in essence what this is really about, is you have the process and you go through and you cross the T's and dot the I's. And then, it could be whether it's through the criminal process or through the public process and the public hearings, and you may have a bunch of neighbors that came in and didn't like something somebody was going to do, and so in order to mitigate the situation, they make a side agreement, and what that side agreement is what these notes are that are attached to a document. And a note being attached to a document and being recorded, as far as I'm concerned, should be it's worth its weight in gold, but obviously our land use attorney doesn't think that agreements that are made, it used to be we had a lot, you could decide things and resolve things and make things happen with a handshake. And pretty soon the handshake's not worth anything, and now you have to have, all these complex agreements, and all it does is provides more work for the attorneys and all the consultants and everything else. It just costs everything, makes everything cost so much more. So personally, I think it's a sad digression, and to me, either the document that we recorded on at the recorder's office is worth what it's recorded, or it's not. And if there's a notation on there, and the parties today, want to live by it 30 years from now, 50 years from now, if the parties don't want to live by it and they want to ignore it, that's what the courts are for. It can go into litigation, but I think it really undermines the respect for and the confidence that we should have for the processes that we've had. And the question comes down to, we adopt this today or this year, all the, you might say, side agreements that are noted on recorded documents for the last 50 years when land use planning kind of came to the forefront, are they like null and void, or is it retroactive to cover them, or is it only deals with the agreements that are in place today forward in terms of the legitimacy? I think we're just opening up a lot of can of worms that really is not serve the public interest. And I'm with Mr. Hammond. I'm not in favor of doing this. And if our land use attorney has no confidence in the system, maybe we should look for a new land use attorney.
Thank you. I had one question on here, it just ties into the front page of more is, so like if a project comes before the planning commission, and the planning commission determines there needs to be a buffer zone on the south side of the property, and that gets appealed to the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors says, no, there doesn't need to be a buffer zone over there, who's gonna weigh out on that? Because it says they can both make rules and be recorded on the parcel map. I mean, is that gonna be a conflict of interest there?
I'm not sure I understood. The map hasn't been recorded and the board determines something
It goes to the
is.
planning commission, the planning commission says, yes, you can do this project, but you need to have a 50-foot buffer zone on the south end.
And the board takes it away.
The property owner comes in and appeals that part of it to the Board of Supervisors. I mean, how is that gonna work? Because it says here on the front page that they can both have the authority to establish conditions of approval. What if there's conflicting between the Board of Supervisors and the planning commission?
Oh, the board rules.
Supervisors prevail.
The Board of
Board
Supervisors.
rules, yeah. The board is the ultimate, the board is the appeal to the planning commission. So whatever the board determines is noteworthy or not is ultimately the answer.
So the answer to the question is they can overrule the planning commissions, or they can add on to what the planning commission.
Absolutely. You should know that.
I was just.
It's happened to you.
I know it. But that was just why I was wondering on the front page,
Yeah.
that could be conflicting.
Yeah, the board is the appeal body and they can decide whether or not a note should be on the map or not.
I think it's important to note too, about 95% of the applications that go through and whatever is handled by the planning commission and board,
We never seen
you
it.
never see it. So the planning commission, whatever they decide prevails. We only get 5% where there's a disagreement between all the parties, and we basically have to tear the baby in half and decide what will or will not prevail.